Welcome to iChangeTheNarrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. This episode of I Change the Narrative is sponsored by So Organic, So Suave, also known as Sauce. Sauce is a luxury hair care and skincare refuge for those with thick hair and melanin-rich skin. From healthy beard growth to top of head hair styling to an illuminating skincare regimen. Sauce Essentials will naturally enhance your outer appearance to strengthen your inner confidence. Sauce invites you to accept the authenticity and real self-care and embrace your best. You can find Sauce's award-winning grooming essentials online at sossd.co. Again, that's sossd.co. You can also follow Sauce on Instagram for the latest in product news and updates at sossd.co. Elevate your grooming with Sauce today. Today's topic is love stories and love lessons that contributed to becoming better Black men. Before we start the conversation, I want to ask our guests to tell us about yourselves, where you're from, and the work that you're involved in that lends itself to the topic or the lived experience. We're going to start with Carl. Welcome.
Thanks, thank you, Nika, once again for having me on. This is my second time on the podcast, so I'm happy to be back. Hey everyone, my name is Carl Nelson. I'm actually from Baltimore, Maryland. I am in the media space. I'm a storyteller and I'm also a social media director. And then I just got married in September of last year. So we've been together for about 11 years, but we got married in September of last year. So so far so good with that.
11 years?
Yeah, we've been together for about 11 years. Yeah, we started out in college. Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. IQ. We don't see you.
Yeah, I saw him for a little bit, then it kind of blacked out.
Hi, Quell, are you there? All right, well, we're going to go ahead while he gets his tech challenges underway. We are going to get started, if that's okay with you, Carl.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. There he is.
Okay, there we go.
A little bit of feedback.
Can you hear me? For some reason, my audio is kind of weird. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we hear a little bit of feedback.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, my name is IQ, and I am an educator as well as an artist. And I've been with my wife. We've been married for about 2 to 3 years now. So I'm still new in the game. So I'm also here to learn.
That's okay. And that was my purpose for today's show. I wanted to gather some Black men who were newly married. And, I'm so thankful that you all are here, as you all have some lessons and stories to tell throughout your relationship. So thank you, guys. Thank you, men, for coming to the show and just being a blessing today. So,
absolutely.
Thank you. We often hear Black stories of Black women and Black couples, but oftentimes we don't hear the love stories of Black men. So I wanted to sort of highlight you all and provide you all with a space, a platform, or even give you the chance to talk before the world about your Black love stories and Black lessons in love. So here we are. Thank you again. What love lessons have you learned throughout your journey in marriage or throughout the dating process that's caused you to become an even better Black man in your manhood?
Want
Anyone?
to take Want to take it
I,
first?
I,
Oh no, yeah, no, you go
I,
first.
I,
You go
I,
first. You got more tenure, man.
yeah, I'll take it. I feel like it's fresh in my head. It just happened yesterday.
Awesome.
Um, I'm a spiritual guy, and the Bible speaks about he who finds a wife finds a good thing and finds favor with the Lord. And for me, um, as far as the dating scene, I can honestly say my wife was my wife before I even before she was a girlfriend, right? Like I can literally say that when I was seeking out for someone, I wasn't seeking for a girlfriend. I was seeking for a wife. So my wife had to be a wife in her own, personal life before she was able to be my wife. So I always would say, because my wife was a wife when I met her, it was a little bit easier for us to come together. And I was a husband before she met me because I was developing myself on becoming a husband so that I can be the right husband for her. So that's just what I would say as far as the dating scene. You need to look for the wife, not for the girlfriend.
Awesome.
Right, and to kind of even piggyback off of what this good brother right here is just saying is that for me, uh, I grew up seeing it, because I had my both of my parents, they've been married for 35 plus years. So I grew up in the household watching their love story and watching how close they are and how deeply in love they've been, uh, over the years. And then also my grandparents, they just celebrated, I think, 64 years of marriage. So, and I have extremely close relationship with them too. Yeah, man. So I grew up seeing it. So I think that just because, based on the fact that that's what I was experiencing growing up, I naturally, once I got to the age where I was now able to, to date. Um, I think that for me, I'm naturally a relationship type of guy. So I would say anytime I was in a relationship with a young lady, it was more so about, I saw it being long term. I wasn't just trying to be in a quick situation with a young lady. And the funny thing about meeting my wife is that we met in college. We were both. It was the summer going into our sophomore year of college, and our mothers introduced us. And it was one of those situations where I wasn't looking at the time. I wasn't looking for a girlfriend. She wasn't looking for a boyfriend. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the way God does things. Sometimes when you're least expecting something, here comes your blessing. And that's
Mhm.
that's that's pretty much what happened with us. So at that point, once I knew I met her and I knew I wanted to pursue her. I knew that I wanted to be a long term thing. So I kind of went into it with that mindset.
That's awesome. Um, what makes you all want to pursue? What made you all want to pursue your wives?
Oh man, it was the attraction. Nah.
Yes,
Um,
of course.
oh, it was definitely that. But what made me, because I dated a few other women before,
Mhm.
I kind of knew what I didn't want. So at that point, I was able to now figure out what I did want, and then it was a kind of a checklist. I mean, I don't want to say that I had like a checklist because I know women from my experience, they have like an extensive checklist of like what they want in a man and in a husband. But for me, I just it was a couple of things that I wanted. Right, I wanted for her to respect me. That was like number one thing. I really wanted her to respect me, and appreciate me too. I wanted to feel that appreciation from my wife, and support. Once those three things, I felt that, that would that would push me to want to know more from those three things, and then I would just branch off at like like that. but that was like my big things. Like my pursuit was like, can you let me see if you can respect me. Let me see if you're gonna appreciate something that I've done for you. Let me see how much you supporting me. Let me lie real quick and say I don't have no job, but you know I'm gonna make a wage. I just need let me see how you feel about that. What you gonna say? You know, like are you gonna leave? Are you gonna so just different things like that. But those are the three things for me. And then the fourth one was attraction. I need someone that I can that looks, presentable. So yeah.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
like that answer, man. Um, no, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't have a PC answer with this one because
Okay.
um, at that time, at that time, because I just finished my freshman year of college, I was feeling myself a little bit. I'm not gonna front. I was feeling myself a little bit, and I was kind of at that time. I'm thinking in my mind, okay, if I meet a young lady, then she can pursue me as well as me pursuing her. So when I met my wife Aubrey, it was interesting because when our mothers introduced us, it was a nice little vibe there, shaking hands and smiling and that sort of thing, and just kind of exchanging a quick moment like that. But there was no numbers exchanged right away. And it wasn't like we went off to the side and had more conversation. It wasn't anything like that. So I think that actually kind of that intrigued me more. It was almost like some type of challenge of the pursuit. So I was thinking about from that moment on, that entire week I was thinking about it. And I remember going back to my mother and saying, "Hey, mom, can you get me in contact with with Aubrey's mother?" So for me, it was more so just like that was like the first moment in a while where I was like, wow, okay, there wasn't a quick exchange. Like I said, I wasn't getting the digits. We weren't going off to the side and having a conversation. I wasn't asking her out right on the spot. She wasn't, showing me that level of interest. It was just more of like a mutual respect type of thing. And I can tell that she really had a lot of respect for herself in that moment. And I saw the foundation she came from just from talking to her mother, now my mother-in-law. So I think that kind of really made me. I had like an instant respect for her. So it just intrigued me. And then after that, I like I said, I told my mother that I was interested in talking to her more, and I was able to get in contact with her from there. And that's the way my wife has always been. She just has always been a person who has a tremendous amount of respect for herself. I've always loved the way that she carries herself, her core values, all of those different things. So for me, that kind of helped me to step my game up, and that's why when I say she's my better half, that's the honest to God truth. Because at that time I thought that was all I needed, and
Oh,
she showed me quickly that was not the case. There was another person that I needed in my life to kind of elevate me, and that
wow.
was that was definitely her. So
That's good. You guys have said two things. Okay, so look at the foundation of where a woman comes from. What does that mean, Carl? And what does that mean, Iquel, to you as well? Because I
you
like
want
that.
to go first, bro?
That was good.
Yeah, I'll go first. For my wife, the foundation had to be God.
Mm,
Um, because for me, I just wanted her to have a I feel like through her building her relationship with God, it helped her to also find herself too.
mm,
So, just knowing that my wife had that as him as a foundation
mhm,
was something that was really good for me. And then I had God was my foundation too. So with us coming together in that way, it just made sense. And I always had a big issue with submission. So
mm,
I always said to myself, like, I used to want a woman that could submit to me. Like, I'm the king. When I want eggs, I want you to make those eggs. Or like, I used to want that. That was my mentality, and something that my wife
mm,
said to me that kind of confirmed her foundation was the only reason why I submit to you is because you submit to God.
mhm,
And from her telling me that, it not only taught me, what true submission was, but it also taught me where her foundation stands. So it wasn't necessarily that she trusted me; she trusted the God in me
mhm,
to be able to lead her. And that, that right there, just it blew my socks away. So she
mm.
got me with that.
That's good.
I love what he just said because I know for like I was 19 and Aubrey was 18 at the time when we first met as young adults, because we found out right then and there that we had met when we were like 4 years old, which we didn't know. It was like we had like a play date when we were like 4 years old, because like I said, our families kind of knew each other. So that was like a small world. That was a awkward story for them to share when they're introducing us as young adults. But it was kind of cool that we met at a church. So at the time, we had like a charity basketball game that I was playing in at my church that I grew up in, and we met there. So it was interesting how all that. My dad kind of tells us. He told that story. He told his version of that story at the wedding, which was hilarious. But so no, what my brother just said, absolutely, that was really important to me. It's kind of cool that at that age that's something, because I grew up in the church, because I grew up with my parents introducing me to what a relationship with God meant at a very young age. Even to this day, even if things get off track with me and my wife, or if things get off track in my personal life, I'm always able to reel it back in because of that foundation that my parents, provided me with growing up just around God, really. Um, so it was kind of cool that at that age, that was like the first thing that came to my mind too. After we met, and after I realized I wanted to pursue it, that was one of the first things I said to myself. Well, we have to be equally yoked, right? So it wasn't really important to me that we were like on the same exact path in terms of our relationship with God at that time. I could have been
Hmm.
further along, or she could have been further along. But for me, it was important that we both have a deep rooted love and respect for God and belief in Him. That was
Hmm.
once I realized that she believed in God, and that she had a love for God, and she was developing that relationship with Him. That gave me a lot of security at that particular point, because I knew that if God wasn't in the equation, as much as beautiful as she was, I didn't think that was going to be something that was going to work for me. So that's why I'm glad my brother right here just he hit it on the head when he said that, in terms of just the belief in God, the foundation in God. And it's cool that at that young age, because you don't always see that. My parents grew up in the church, but my dad would always say his spirituality went to a whole different level, in like his mid to late 20s.
Hmm.
When I was really really young. So but for me, I came up in it, so it's kind of cool that while I was a teenager, that was one of the first things in my mind. Okay, she has to. I'm like, oh, she's beautiful and she's really cool, but Lord, please, I hope that she has a relationship with God. I hope she believes in God too. So that was that was great. That really kind of helped me, that settled me a little bit, and just gave me a sense of security there. Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too, because I know that there might be some people on here that's listening that might not believe in God or might not,
Right.
know God, right? I would always say stand on principle, stand on morals, right?
Mm.
If you're gonna look for somebody, make sure your principles align, make sure your morals align, because that right there can be a foundation that can help you guys, grow together as well, right? Some people just their morals might be off, or their aspirations might be different. There's so many things that happens, and the reason why relationships don't work is because of the foundation. If the foundation is shaky, it's gonna be real hard for you guys to be able to manage, right? Because you didn't set that foundation. So principles is important, right? Just making sure that is a foundation. Period.
Absolutely.
That is so true. You said earlier that you wanted someone to respect you. What does that look like? Because I know that is a social media debate, and that submission is another social media debate. They have a problem. Black people, our Black people, have a problem on social media with the word submissive. So let's talk about what that looks like.
Yeah. As far as the respect thing, um, something about my wife knows how to correct me and cheer me on at the same time. She knows, and it's not really what she says, but it's how she does things. It's how she approaches me. To me, respect equates with the how you do something, right? Even if you disagree with someone, or if you feel like you just maybe you don't like something that your husband or your wife said, like, it's how you deliver it to show how much you respect the person. I find myself, if I can't speak to my wife about something, I would write her a note. I would text her. I would tell her things like, "Give me some time to get my thoughts together before I have a conversation with you, because if I say something to you right now, it might come out wrong, and I might say something that I'll regret. So I'm not gonna say anything at all." That's me respecting her
Mm.
and respecting, the things that I might say that hurt her, right? And the same thing with her. So I think respect is really the how. How do you do things? And as far as submission, for me, I think the reason why we argue about submission is because the idea that we have in our head of what submission is wrong. you
Yeah.
know i Man is not, oh, I'm in control of the woman, and the woman is just supposed to take care of the children and cook food and stuff. That's not what it's about. Submission is, you do something that I'm having a hard time with, you do that for me, and I do the same thing for you. We both are submitting to each other in some type of way. I don't like washing dishes. My wife doesn't like cooking, but I will wash the dishes when she cooks. You see how, like, that it just makes sense, right? Like, that's where the submission actually comes in. And I think submission is different in every single relationship because everyone doesn't have the same needs and wants. So you would have to really figure out, I would say, in a relationship, figure out what submission actually means in your relationship. Forget about what the world says it is, forget about what society says it is. What does it look like with me and you right now, right? So that's what I would say to that.
Carl, do you want to add to that piece?
Something that he just said just made me think about, when we did premarital counseling before we got married, and you're going through the pastors going through the love languages, right? And me and my wife, we both have different love languages. So we've gotten to a point where when he said what he said about the cooking and then the washing dishes, she I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm trying to get better about doing more cooking, right? In my in my household, but that's like like with our love languages. One thing about my wife is, her coming home from work, because I work remotely and I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm on the move with the things that I'm doing. She right now she does performing arts, but she's also in a workspace, throughout the course of the week. So when she gets home, those dishes being washed, that weren't washed when she left in the morning, that goes a long way for her in terms of her love language, or her cooking and me coming right behind her and washing the dishes right away. It's like we working, hand in hand, like like a partnership, things like that. Just like with her, for Valentine's Day, me walking out of the bedroom and saying that she has like a like a brunch set up for me, where there's gonna be some intimacy there and everything in terms of spending quality time with one another. Like that goes along with my love language. So I like what my brother right here said in terms of you got to figure out what that means for your specific relationship, because obviously it's different. It's different from one relationship to another. But yeah, what he just said, that made me think about that. Us learning what our love languages were, and me being conscious of that and her being conscious of that. I guess that's our way of submitting to one another on a throughout the course of a day or week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and something I also want to add because that's super dope. like like with love language, man, everyone needs to get down with that because that will really save a relationship. Like, I didn't even know that my love language was words of affirmation until me and my wife took the test, and
Mm.
I realized whenever I get a haircut, I want to hear my wife say I look good. And I
Right.
never knew, and I used to get upset when she didn't say nothing because I'm like, you didn't see, I just got a haircut, like,
Right.
and we had to teach each other how to love each other, right? So it's like it got to the point where it sounds funny, but like, if I came in a house and I had a haircut and she didn't say anything, I would walk out the house and be like, I knock on the door and say, you forgot something. And she was like, "Oh, you look so nice." I was like, thank you, right?" But it really like helped her to start making sure. Like yesterday, I didn't even tell her I got a haircut, and I came in, and she was like, "Oh, you look nice." And I'm like, "See, it's working. It's working.
Right.
I feel good, right?" Like, and I feel like sometimes you gotta teach your husband and your wife how to love you. Like,
Mhm.
you don't just automatically start just knowing these things about a person. You have to teach that person that, right? And I think your wife is acts of service, because that's the love language where when you basically you do something for somebody without them having to ask you to do it.
Right.
And that is a big, my wife is huge on that. My wife would say things like, she'll be in the shower and she'll say, oh man, I forgot my towel. Now, in the beginning of our relationship, I'll just walk right past her. But as I started to learn, when she said things like that, it meant, can you get me a towel? Like, it's little small stuff like that that really
Right.
can change or break a relationship. So yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's that's so good. So hearing you all talk, I think that the culture has a problem with the word submit and the word obey in the vows. Um, I think there's a problem with those two words because of the negative connotation behind it dating back to slavery. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if I would just say, listen, just change the word then. Like,
Mhm,
it's not like, just don't say it's a submission, in your relationship.
mhm,
But for men, like, something that I could say is, um, I'm a Bible person, so like, there's a part in the scripture where it says, you have the men has to love their wife as Jesus loved the church. Now, if you don't believe in Jesus or whatever, but basically is just saying that Jesus had this big heart for the church. Like, he really loved the church. He really, really wanted to. For people who believe it, he died so that the church could be okay. That's right. That's how important it was. And
mhm,
the scripture talks about we have to love our wives like Jesus loved the church. We cannot get respect or submission from from our wives, if we're not loving them in that capacity. So
mhm,
us as men, the first thing we have to do before we even think about our wives submitting to us, is we have to have that desire to love them unconditionally.
mhm,
And I feel like when you really love a person and you show them how much you actually care for them, you don't even have to talk about obeying and submission. It happens
mhm,
automatically.
mhm,
It's like something with, so it's like the stigma of submission and obeying. It's literally, I feel like it was created to separate us. The way that they make it seem is like they want us to be separated,
mhm,
and it's really not like that, right? So just we just have to make sure that we are truly loving the person that we're with, to the point where they'll be willing to do anything for us, and we'll be willing to do anything for them. That is submission.
mhm.
So yeah.
Got it.
Um. Oh,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
No, go
No, no.
ahead,
I was
Carl.
I was just gonna say quickly that yeah. I mean, if it comes down to it, where we have to, just use a different term, and that's fine too. But I also think that forms like this are really important, because the way that he's breaking this down, maybe the
Mhm,
problem is it's not broken. It's not broken down a lot. The way that this brother right here just broke that down, he did
yeah,
that beautifully. Maybe
yeah,
maybe it's that you don't see that on social media as much, or on mainstream media as much, or maybe it's not talked about, discussed that way in some of
right,
our circles with our friends, right? Because the way that he broke it down, um, it's really not. It really doesn't have to be a negative thing. Those
exactly,
terms don't have to be negative and offensive if you truly understand the way that he's explaining it. You know.
Yeah.
exactly,
And
exactly.
I used to tell my mom, because another thing is, um, I feel like we are taught, women are taught to, I don't need no man. I could do this on my own, right? Like I could run the world by myself. Like society has subconsciously put it in our minds that women don't need a man, and that
Mhm,
men are, we have do as I say and not as I do when it comes to men, right?
mhm,
Like, I'm the lion, so just all you gotta do is listen to me. That's it. I don't need to hear nothing from you. Like, that's the stigmas that's out there. My
right,
mom, I used to tell my mom, I don't want to marry someone like you, because you have this mentality where it's like, I don't need no man, and I was like, I don't want no wife that's gonna feel like she don't need me or she don't want me. Like that's just and as my mom started to get older, she started to say, you know what, that I don't know why I acted like that for such a long time, but I don't know. I don't need to act like that. Like that's not
Right.
true. That's not how it's supposed to be, right? Like it's a partnership, like you said. It's supposed to be a partnership. It's not supposed to be I could do this by myself and I don't need no man and da 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 da. It's like the power tripping that we have is really bad, and we should not have that. Like we should be able to be vulnerable, and we should be able to be expressive and
Yes.
just be true to ourselves and true to the person that we're with, right? And we should never feel that way. And if we do feel that way, we have to figure out where that trauma came from. Why do we feel like, why does a woman feel like she don't need a man? What happened? Right? Like you gotta dig deep into that. Why does a man feel like he has to be so aggressive and not vulnerable and he has to just lead all the time and he like dig deep and figure that out. What is that trauma? Because once you can figure out that trauma, you can now really be the person you're supposed to be and you can love the way you were supposed to love.
Right. So it's correcting some of that thinking. We need to go back and correct, deal with the thing that has caused us to think negatively about that. That's good. That's good. Where do you all draw your inspiration to learn, not to love, but to learn in all of this?
I learned from other people's mistakes.
That's
I
good.
I, I learned from seeing so my story is not like I didn't see this growing up. I don't know. I'm first generation to be married in my family, so I don't really know what that really looked like growing up. But oh, okay, my grandparents too, but I literally saw the mistakes that other people made, and I
Mhm.
kind of took mental notes, and I said, oh, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be better in this area, right? And also like finding, like, I wish I had a brother like you in my life when I was getting married 11 years in the game. I would have literally hit him up like, yo, I'm about to get married, this I don't know, this, tell me, talk to me, give me some, right? I just feel like finding people who has more experience than you as well in that area that can kind of lead you and guide you, because that's the best way to go sometimes. So yeah, and then God, of course, God,
Yes.
he'll give you answers when you pray.
Yes. Yeah.
No, nigga, for me, I just like I was going back to what I was saying in the beginning. I was blessed to, and I understand everybody doesn't, have that same opportunity to grow up in a household where you have both your parents, and I think that's why, when I'm talking to certain people, I feel like I have a duty to kind of share about
Hmm.
that because I was just I looked up and was just blessed in that way, and seeing my parents, they spend so much even to this day.
Hmm.
They're like the best of friends, right?
Yeah.
So I think that for me, seeing that yes, they married and they're in love, but it started out as them just being really close friends. Seeing the
Hmm.
same thing with my grandparents. Like I said, you're gonna have your ups and downs. I might go over there one day. They don't feel like talking to one another. You never know, right? Um, but at the end of the day, my grandfather's gonna come in that kitchen when he prepares something. He's gonna make sure his wife is taken care of. He's gonna come home and have some flowers for her, or she's gonna do something for him.
That's
So
good.
saying that they're able to do that after all these years, and even now with me being married, looking at my in-laws, my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law, they've been married for like 25 plus years.
That's good.
And my brother-in-law, him and his wife, my sister-in-law, they've been married for I think almost probably close to 10 years. So, and you know what, I would say, um, just like my guy right here was saying, where you know it's good to have somebody who has had like experience in relationships, had some tenure in relationships. Like it's probably things I can say, say to you or ask you, because I'm only 6 months into my marriage, and you're 2-3 years into your marriage. So there's a difference in the level of experience there in terms of just being married. But like my brother-in-law, we have conversations all the time about different things, and I got a lot of love for him because I think that he's like the true. You hear people in our community say, "Oh, the OG, the OG, the OG." To me, he's like a true definition of that because he's not going to tell me, he's not going to come to me and give me, like the type of advice where, hey man, as long as you do what you're gonna do, but just don't let it get into the household. Like he's not gonna give me that type of advice. He's gonna give me the advice of, hey, she's your best friend, right? He's like, when I look at my wife, this is my best friend. So even if we're not rocking together as a husband and wife, I'm still gonna have a certain level of respect for her. When it comes to me being out on my own, or yeah, when it just comes to me being away from the household, I'm still going to have a certain level of like respect for my wife because she is my best friend at the end of the day, and I don't want to disrespect my best friend. I don't want to hurt my best friend.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've just been able to just be blessed to kind of come up, and I've also seen the opposite too. I've seen the opposite with certain people that around me. And so going to what my guy here said, just learning from other people's mistakes too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like right now, like when I tell you guys my schedule on a weekly basis, like I'm working, and then on the weekends I'm at my parents' spot, and then I'm at my grandparents' spot, then I'm at my in-law spot, and when I see that, and I'm just like, yo, this is like when it's Sunday, and I'm downstairs in the man cave with my father-in-law watching football, and my wife's upstairs, my mother-in-law's upstairs, everybody's happy, we got food, we're relaxing. Everybody's getting along, having a good time. Like that's really, I think to myself, that's really what I want long term. Like I want to get to 20, 30, 40 plus years, especially in a society now where you don't see that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people who there's a lot of people in our society, especially my generation, who they kind of, for whatever reason, they've lost faith in the ideals of marriage, and being with being able to find one husband and one wife to
Mm-hmm.
spend the rest of your life with. So, but I'm glad that I still see that traditional type of marriage in my parents and in my in-laws and in my grandparents, and that's really where I gain a lot of my inspiration from.
I think it's important that as Black men, you all surround yourselves with examples, so that it can encourage you all to keep going, because um, this culture right now is at a point where they're using the language of "we grew apart," and I don't particularly agree with that. Um, because it's twisted, because you're not growing apart, you're changing, and you have to find out, I believe, um, you have to grow with that person and find out how are you changing, and latch on to that new change and learn that new change of what's going on. You have to work, it seems as if, you have to work that out. All of my friends who are married, um, one of my good girlfriends told me that, she said, well, I had to learn to love him in a new way. And that thing blew me away. Because even though I'm not married in a relationship right now, um, you still have to learn how to love that person in a new way. You can't love them to the same. What are your thoughts about that? I know you haven't probably had that experience yet. Well, maybe you have, Carl, because of your 11 years. What are your thoughts about that?
I'll let you go first, bro.
Let's see. So I love what you just laid out there, Nika. I'm trying to think right now. Um,
Learning to or discovering to love
right.
a
So
person.
okay, so I just had like a brain fart for a second. Sorry about that. No, so I love what you said. I think that if you come into, okay, there's a joke my father-in-law says to me. He said it on numerous occasions because obviously we were all in this thing together with getting the wedding prepared, and it was so much that went into it, right? So when you do something, you take a major step like that. Of course, you're not doing it for that to be a short period of time, right? So
Right.
he always says to me, listen, you guys gonna have your days, right? My brother-in-law always says to me, Friday through Sunday's easy. It's Monday through Thursday where the real work comes into play. So my father-in-law says, hey man, you're gonna have your days, but the you have to be committed to going home and working it out and figuring the situation out. It's almost like you gotta have this mindset where the and I understand some relationships have these situations where I'm not trying to condemn anybody who gets divorced or anything like that, right? I
Right.
know people in my family or just friends who've had to experience that. But
Right.
I think that it's important if you go into the mindset where you're saying, you go into the marriage saying to yourself, we're gonna do whatever it takes, like collectively. Our goal is to keep the relationship going, to
Right.
keep our love growing, to keep the spark growing, to this, we're kind of sticking with this plan A instead
Mhm.
of, thinking about, like, even when I say people, they ask me how the marriage is going, and I joke and say, so far, so good. And they say, no, 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 don't say so far, so good. It's you guys are
Right.
in this thing for forever. So don't
Right.
say so far, so good. So I think that, yeah, I love what you said there, because I definitely hear that when you see so many celebrity couples or you see just different people in society and they're saying, well, like you said, we were together 5 years, grew apart, and now we're just going to go our separate ways. And we've been together, 12 years and everything, but, some things happen. We're growing apart. We're just going to go our separate ways. I love what you said. Not having that mindset that we're growing apart, but just choosing to look, you're going to change naturally, right?
Yeah.
10 years from now, I'm going to be different than how I
Mhm.
am today. I'm
Exactly.
31 right now. I'm 41. I'm not going to be the same person. I'm not nearly the same person I was when I was 21.
Right.
And we were together during that time. My wife, she's 30. When she's 40, she's gonna be different. But
Mhm.
it's just, I love what you said, Nick, in terms of choosing to just maybe learn her in a different way. She's had to learn me in a different way. We'll have to adjust. And I can love her, in the midst of her change. She can love me in the midst of me evolving as well. Um,
Right.
so I love what you said there, because that's something I do hear a lot in society. People say, "Oh, we just grew apart," and then you just kind of throw in the towel. And it's like, well, hey, did you get married did you get married 5 or 7 years ago with the mentality that, hey, if we grow apart, then that we're just gonna call it quits?
Right.
So yeah, I love what you said there. The fact that naturally we're all gonna change and evolve as we get older, and as circumstances in life change and evolve as well, and we just have to choose to learn to love each other in that change. So.
Right. Right.
No, that's that's no, that's so true. And the reason why people grow apart is because uh, they didn't grow together. So,
Oh.
so I feel like
I like that, man.
some advice that I got was to always date, continuously date your partner. Make sure that you always allot at least some type of time out of your crazy schedule to sit back and to date, because in your dating you will continuously learn about the person, and you will realize what's happening, the change that's happening in a person. And if you grow together with a person, you'll be fine. But we grow apart because by the time you decide to start growing together, it's too late because you haven't done anything within the 5 years.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you get married and you get into a routine, you come home, you work, you go to sleep, you might take care of the kids, you might cook, you might shower, boom, and you do it all over again. Imagine doing that consistently for 5 years. You
Mhm.
will not know who you're laying next to. So
Mhm.
you have to be able to break out of that routine from time to time so that you can continue to grow with the person that you're with. My wife hates the fact that I have this thing called 25 questions. Once a month, I ask my wife these 25 questions. And the reason why I ask her these questions is because I want to make sure that she is still the same person that I married. And if she's not, we need to figure out what changed.
Mm.
But if I
Right.
don't set aside that time to ask her, she gets so upset that I ask her questions all the time. But I'm continuously making sure that I know who I'm married to. And it's this, and then it's the same thing with me, right? Like, so I'm 30, I'm about to be 31. My wife is 30, so we're definitely different from when we were in our 20s. it's a complete different ball game. I feel like when I became 30, I just automatically felt like life was just coming at me quick, and I had to just like take over the world or something, and it's a lot of pressure, right? So she went from seeing um, me where I was kind of laxed and not really purposeful as much to now I'm a purposeful beast, and I'm going to chase my dreams, and I went
Yes.
from watching Power to now I'm watching Purpose podcasts, and now she's just like, what in the world is going on, right? But she's if we don't grow together, she could still be trying to watch Sisters with Tyler Perry, and I'm sitting here watching some entrepreneurship stuff, and if we both do that for a long time, we'll be growing apart, is what they say, right? So
Right.
again, I just feel like the focus is to grow together. If you grow together, you will not grow apart.
That's good.
Can
That's
can
good.
I just add something? I think I'm gonna I think I might try that 25 questions. I
I'm gonna
like
send it
that.
to you, bro. I'm gonna send it to you when we get off of that.
Please
It's
do,
deep
man. I
too.
like that.
It's deep.
Okay, so
I
is
like
this
that.
something that you've made up or you got this from somewhere?
No, I just made it up. I just sat back and started writing down a whole bunch of questions that I want to ask her. Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
But
Can
you
we
know
get,
what? He go ahead, nigga.
go ahead. No, I'll ask after you.
No. I was gonna say. I feel like he's speaking to the importance of still like courting your wife. You know, it doesn't just stop like at the altar, right? Like I love what he said about you got to continue to date and set
Hmm.
some time aside because he's absolutely right. That, you know, with our busy schedules, we might look up after a couple of weeks and we're like, you know what? Okay, yeah, we saw each other each day, but
Hmm.
did we actually go out to dinner? Did we go to the movies? Did we do something here? Did we sit here and watch Netflix together? Did we kind of talk about our days and just talk about how things are kind of evolving career wise, or are we going? Are you going through something in your personal life? Am I going through something in my personal life that you might not realize I'm going through?
Hmm.
So I love what he said there because that's really important. That's always been important to me is trying to keep that spark alive. Because if you've been together so this long, and you get into just a routine or you get into like a comfort zone, then that can be dangerous for that spark in a relationship. So that's always one thing I've always tried to, even if it might be a weekend where I'm like, man, I just really want to just relax and chill. I don't want to do anything. I try to think to myself, you know what? No. That's like, come on, get some motivation, man. Take your wife out on a date because I think that will go a long way with how she's gonna feel after that. And when she does something special like that for me that I'm not expecting, same thing. That's gonna do something for me. It
Right.
kind of goes back to what he was saying about if he goes to get his hair cut and walks in the door and she compliments him on that cut, then that's gonna make him feel a lot better when he's walking out to his car, walking out out the house, going to his car to go to wherever he's going to run to the store.
Yeah.
Opposed to if he
Yeah.
doesn't hear that affirmation. So
Yeah.
Yep. Super true. One of the questions I asked, I just pulled it up on my phone, is how am I always say, how am I doing as your husband? And she is, she'll answer whatever. But one of the questions that we always get that we always go hard with is, are you dealing with anything that I can help you with currently?
Oh.
Sometimes my wife, she does so many things and she doesn't ask me or tell me what's going on. And sometimes the reason why she can't really be open to me or to be vulnerable or intimate with me sometimes is because she's overwhelmed. And if I could figure out a way to help her with the things that she might be overwhelmed with, then I'll be able to get what I need from her. So
Mm.
that's always a question that I try to ask her a lot, and so that we can be on the same path when it comes to that. So yeah, I just thought that's a cool question.
yeah, you
That
definitely
is,
got to send that over to me, bro.
yes,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yes. Why is it important for other Black men to hear your stories, hear your Black love stories, hear your Black love lessons? Why do you think that's important?
Because the stigma of black love doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Because I believe it's important for them to hear our stories from our perspectives, because men don't speak about these things.
Hmm.
For some reason, we were taught not to cry. We were taught not to be vulnerable. We were taught to be tough. My grandfather used to tell me to walk around and look tough when I'm walking so that someone wouldn't bother me. So now when I'm walking around with my wife, or if my wife introduces me to her cousin or a friend that's a guy or something, I'm automatically thinking in my head I have to be tough. And what that does, it used to cause so much friction between us because she's like, why you gotta look like that? And that's just an example of like how black men subconsciously we've been taught to be a certain way. So we're not going to tell you how we feel. We're not going to tell you the ups and the downs in a marriage, right? Like, and we're not going to be able to be vulnerable to our wives. And with us not being vulnerable to our wives now, we just open ourselves up to do all kind of other things, right? And then we find ourselves cheating and doing this and doing that because we're fighting against ourselves, and there's nobody telling us that it's okay to be hurt right now. One of the biggest things that I had to overcome was learning how to be intimate with my wife. I did not know how to be intimate. That sounds so crazy and so stupid, but it got to the point where I was just so used to doing things a certain way when it came to intimacy that I didn't know how to be intimate with my wife. And I had to sit down with to say it to my wife. I had to say, I don't know how to be intimate, and I need you to teach me. That is so hard. You know how prideful, like, if I was a prideful person, you know how hard it is to tell my wife,
We can't hear you. We can hear you now.
yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry. My wife literally, imagine if she wasn't a strong wife and she just said, "Oh, you weak because you just told me that." Imagine how much that would have tore me up. But every man I said that I knew, they'd be like, you better not tell her that. You
Mm-hmm.
better not tell her that you don't know how to be intimate. This is how this is how things be in our head. And now before you know it, we don't even want to say nothing to nobody, right? So it's important to have these type of platforms so that you as a black man, me as a black man, we can see that there's somebody else going through what we're going through, which will motivate us to keep doing what we're doing.
Right. Right.
No, I agree. I agree with him 1,000%. It's so many things against us right now because you have social media, you have the manipulation of mainstream media at times. You have a lot of these different forms, even in some of these group chats. When you think about group chats with your homeboys, a lot of these conversations aren't being had because, like you just saying, it's certain things that you might be a little hesitant to put out there, to your homies because they might not really fully understand the situation, might not be receptive, to what it is that you're saying, or like he was just saying, you might have a conversation with a friend or with the uncle or with the mentor, and you're telling them, hey man, I think I want to tell my wife that I don't know how to be intimate. And they're saying, you better not say, are you crazy? You better not tell her that. But so I think that we definitely have to have more conversation dialogue like this and put it out there. I put it out there into the universe because I'm sure there's a lot. Listen, I have a I have a lot of I have a lot of good friends who are black males.
Mm-hmm.
I have young black males who look up to me as well, and I find myself in diverse environments, but I find myself in a lot of predominantly black environments where I'm around other black males, and I know that some of these brothers are going through some of the same things that that we are going through, will be going through. But they just might not feel comfortable. They might feel like they're alone in that situation because they don't see it discussed like this in forums like this.
Right.
That's why it's so great that you created a platform like this, and you're bringing black males on to kind of have these open dialogues.
Right.
So yeah.
I think that it's important to have these dialogues because I've heard from other Black men that have come onto the show, that have listened to the show. They've DM'd me and said they were strengthened by these conversations and strengthened by what the men on here have spoken. So that is my purpose. That is my point for these types of conversations, is to even my guests that have come on here, they've said that, man, such and such has strengthened me by what he said on the show. So I really, this is why I do it. I want our culture, our Black men, our Black women, to hear that there are stories, positive stories out here, that there are Black men who don't mind coming on, being vulnerable, um, to these types of subjects. And so I really, really appreciate both of you coming on. My purpose, for this particular show was to have my young 30 somethings, newly married, individuals on here for this particular show. 2 shows ago, we first dealt with, some gentlemen that have been married for a while. And then my second show, we had, a coach on, and then another gentleman, Sean Dove, who has been married in the game for a while. So they built off each other, and you all are taking us out because, there's still lessons, there's still love stories out here, of the 30 somethings that can still teach everyone, about the subject. So I thank you so much for contributing, and that is our time. But before we go, tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Yeah, if you guys want to connect with me on social media, I'm at Carl Nelson Media on IG. That's my media page, and it's Carl with a K. And then on Twitter, I'm at Carl Nelson Jr. At Carl Nelson Jr. And then on Facebook, same thing, Carl Nelson as well. So yeah.
Awesome. IQ.
Yeah, for me, you can reach me on Instagram at IQ Music. It's IQUEMUSIQ. So you reach me there, and we can connect.
Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing I Change the Narrative to showcase your stories, for doing your part in changing the narrative, and lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. That means a lot. If you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know is changing the narrative, please connect with us, or contact us at iChangeTheNarrative@gmail.com. We would love to share your story. For I Change the Narrative merchandise, visit iChangeTheNarrative.org. Thank you to our sponsors, So Organic, So Suave. You can follow Sauce on Instagram. And for the latest in product news and updates, you can follow them at sossd.co. Meet us back here Saturday, March 19th. That's Saturday, March the 19th, where we'll have more great show, more great conversations at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all so much for listening.